A U.S. immigration judge on Friday ruled that President Donald Trump's administration can proceed with its deportation case against Mahmoud Khalil, a graduate student at Columbia University. Khalil, who was arrested in New York City last month and transferred to a Louisiana jail, has been a prominent figure in the pro-Palestinian student protest movement that has roiled Columbia's campus. A message was read on behalf of Khalil's support team following the hearing.
Despite the government's failure to prove that Mahmoud broke any law, the court has decided that lawful permanent residents can have their status revoked for pro-Palestine advocacy. This is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and a dangerous precedent for anyone who believes in free speech and political expression.
Last month, Secretary of State Marco Rubio determined that Khalil should be removed because his presence in the United States has, quote, potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences, citing a 1952 law called the Immigration and Nationality Act, which the Louisiana judge said she lacked the authority to overrule. Khalil's case is a high-profile test of the Republican president's efforts to deport foreign pro-Palestinian students who are in the United States legally, and like Khalil, have not been charged with any crime. But the judge's decision Friday is not the final say over whether Khalil will be deported. In a separate case in New Jersey federal court, the judge has blocked deportation while he considers Khalil's claim that his arrest was made in violation of the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment protections for freedom of speech.
It was the epitome of the lack of due process in a court proceeding in this country. It was shocking. The immigration judge had made up her mind before the hearing even started what she was going to do. She basically cut off questioning throughout the proceeding. She cut off argument. What this document says is that there is a compelling government interest in not letting Mr. Mahmoud express his beliefs, statements, or associations in the United States because of a compelling foreign policy interest. We wanted to examine Marco Rubio and say, what are you talking about? This guy has never been convicted of a crime, never been charged with a crime, very peaceful person. His ideas are that threatening to the United States? And that's the position of the United States government, that Mahmoud Khalil's ideas are so horrible. His ideas that there should be a Palestinian state, his ideas that the United States is contributing to genocide in Gaza by the Israeli government.
You know, like Mark was saying, today was historic in its unfairness. The judge went out of her way to make very clear to us and anyone in the courtroom that the constitutional arguments we were making had no place in immigration court. There was not an ounce of desire in her being to give Mahmoud a fair hearing today. And that's precisely what we were fearful of. The immigration case is far from over. We move on now into what's called the relief stage, where Mahmoud can present certain applications to defend against removal. And we're set to file additional evidence and applications by April 23rd. We foresee that this case will require at least a few more hearings in immigration court before, a final decision is made, at which point there could be appeals. At the same time, my colleagues will talk about this more briefly, we also have pending proceedings in district court, which is the proper forum per the government and per this judge to make the constitutional arguments that despite whatever authority Secretary Rubio asserts, you cannot deport someone from the country for engaging in constitutionally protected free speech.
If Marco Rubio says he should be deported, end of the inquiry. So that's the position. We'll be arguing in district court that can't happen. It's violative of the First Amendment. And we'll argue it wherever we can, but that's their legal position that they are taking in this case. We can go to the Board of Immigration Appeals. but not till there's what's called a final order. So we're still have this, I'd say, secondary, tertiary matters to deal with in the immigration court. But my guess is she'll be making a decision, within a few weeks or so on the other matters, which really won't control the case. And then we would go to the Board of Immigration Appeals. But the Board of Immigration Appeals has precedent, which is what the judge relied on, and the government was arguing, basically similarly saying you can't look behind the two-page letter or any memorandum that the Secretary of State puts out about this. So our real remedy is in district court, in federal district court. And that's the only place we're going to get any real justice, or that he is going to get any real justice.
As he said in court today, there's no mistake. There was no accident in him being sent to Louisiana. It is a place far removed from most of society, where it's difficult to get news from. It's difficult to find an attorney. And, just like his arrest was meant to silence him and intimidate him to be quiet, sticking him in the middle of the South with very little access to people, technology, etc., is just a further attempt to chill him.
You tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out.
Oh yeah, we have a whole neighborhood called Little Italy that just they pump out.
Have like a chicken place everybody.
Yeah. That's the worst.
Louisiana, out of a plan to detain Arab and Muslim non-citizens in secret. A plan that
Today, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud can be removed from this country. A decision as unjust as it is alarming. Despite the government's failure to prove that Mahmoud broke any law, the court has decided that lawful permanent residents can have their status revoked for pro-Palestine advocacy. This is a blatant violation of the First Amendment and a dangerous precedent for anyone who believes in free speech and political expression. But this decision should not pacify you, it should embolden and encourage you. Those who know Mahmoud know him for his fierce commitment to justice and his refusal to back down from even the steepest of challenges. It is Mahmoud's fighting spirit that we must embrace in the following days. While his deportation would devastate his wife and their soon-to-be-born child, it would also intimidate all who dare to speak for Palestinian liberation. Mahmoud is currently imprisoned in Louisiana, a state that detains over 7,000 people daily and serves as the second largest hub for immigration detention in the U.S. Louisiana's 9 detention centers, 8 of which are privately operated, include the only ICE facility in the country directly connected to an airport, thus streamlining mass deportations. Across the state, abuse runs rampant. Detainees face solitary confinement, rotting food, medical neglect, and sexual assault. This system is fueled by corporate greed. GEO Group, the private prison company caging Mahmoud, earned over $1 billion from ICE contracts in 2022. I would like to quote what you said last time, that there's nothing that's more important to this court than due process rights and fundamental fairness. Clearly, what we witnessed today, neither of these principles were present. Today or in this whole process. This is exactly why the Trump administration has sent me to this court 1,000 miles away from my family.
They are political prisoners, among many others, fighting a struggle to be free while
We are deeply disappointed and angry about the result of today's hearing and utter denial of Mahmoud's due process rights and humanity. We want to say that regardless of their decisions, we will continue fighting for Mahmoud and for all the people detained by the immigrant detention system. Today and every day, we call for the abolition of this country's inhumane detention system.
Hear this brief prayer from Emily Wilkes.
Mahmoud left us with a message. He said, please show the urgency that you had for this case, for the hundreds of prisoners detained and locked up behind us. He had the empathy to care about others in a moment that should have been about him, about injustice that happened to him. These are the people that this government decides that should be deported. The Trump administration, we say, the people are not afraid. We refuse to be silent in the face of your attacks on working people and the movement for Palestine. As the past months of speeches and actions from Mahmoud and Palestine have proven, our movement is only growing stronger and more broad in the face of these immoral attacks. The people, united, will never be defeated because our cause is just, moral, and the truth.